The night was quiet. The small human settlement lay under the silver light of the moon. Crickets chirped and the wind whispered through the trees. No one expected anything unusual. But far above the sky, a strange light appeared. At first it was just a tiny dot, moving too fast to be a plane. Then it grew bigger, brighter, until it suddenly shot down toward the forest on the edge of the village. People ran out of their homes, pointing and shouting. The light crashed into the trees with a loud boom. Smoke rose, and a strong smell of burning metal filled the air. The villagers froze, unsure what they had just seen. No one had ever seen anything like it before. A few brave men and women ran toward the smoke. Among them was Mark, a young engineer, curious and brave. He had always loved studying machines, stars, and anything strange. As he got closer, he saw pieces of a spaceship scattered across the forest. The metal was shiny, strange, and unlike anything he had ever touched. And then he saw her. A figure was lying near the largest piece of wreckage. At first it looked like a woman, but her skin was pale blue, almost glowing in the moonlight. Her hair was long, silver, and shimmered like tiny stars. Her eyes were huge, round, and deep purple. She was beautiful, but she was also very weak. Her body shook and she struggled to breathe. Mark froze. "Is she alive?" he whispered. One of the villagers, Anna, stepped forward. "We need to help her. She looks hurt," she said. The alien woman slowly raised her head. Her eyes locked with Mark's. There was a strange mix of fear and hope in her gaze. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, she made small gestures, pointing at herself and then at the humans, as if trying to explain something. Mark carefully approached her. "It's okay," he said softly, even though he wasn't sure if she understood. "We will help. You." She dropped to her knees suddenly, her hands pressed together, trembling. It was a strange, desperate gesture. Mark stepped back, unsure what it meant. Then she pointed at herself, then at him, then made a small bow. It was clear she wanted something. But what? The villagers looked at each other nervously. No one knew her language. No one knew her intentions. Was she a friend or a threat? Mark's curiosity overcame his fear. He knelt beside her, examining her injuries. Her skin felt cooler than a human's. Strange markings ran along her arms, glowing faintly. Small cuts and burns covered her body, but her eyes seemed almost alive with emotion. "Someone must have attacked her," Mark said quietly. "Or maybe it was the crash." The alien woman made a low, soft sound, almost like a whisper. She repeated it several times. Mark listened carefully. It sounded like she was saying a single word over and over. He had no idea what it meant, but the sound carried a strange urgency, like a plea for help. The villagers helped move her to a safe place near the edge of the forest. They built a small fire to keep her warm. The woman watched the flames with wide eyes, fascinated. Occasionally, she tried to reach out to Mark, but her strength failed her, and she fell back onto the ground. Mark sat beside her. He had never felt anything like this before. Something about her was human, not in appearance, but in her emotions. She was scared, lonely, and desperate. Somehow he understood that she needed them, and he wanted to help. Suddenly, the air around them seemed to shimmer. Small sparks of light danced near the wreckage. The villagers gasped. The alien woman looked up at the lights and raised her hands. Her gestures were urgent, almost frantic. Mark realized she was pointing to the spaceship, then back at herself, then at him. She wanted something from him. But what? Before he could understand, the alien woman dropped her head to the ground again. She was exhausted. Her soft purple eyes flicked to him one last time. There was a silent plea. There. A wordless cry for help. Mark knew one thing for sure. Her life depended on them. The night grew darker, and the forest seemed quieter, almost holding its breath. Strange noises came from the wreckage, like the spaceship itself was alive. The villagers huddled together, uncertain and afraid. Mark looked at the alien woman. She was no longer just a stranger from the stars. She was a being in need, a mystery that begged for answers. And somewhere deep inside, he felt that whatever happened tonight would change everything, not just for them, but for the entire human settlement. The crash was just the beginning. The next morning, the forest was quiet, but the tension in the village was heavy. The alien woman, who had not spoken a single human word, rested on a bed of blankets near the edge of the fire. Her glowing skin had dimmed in the daylight, but her large purple eyes still held a silent plea. Every now and then, she looked around as if searching for something, or someone. Mark approached carefully, carrying a small notebook and a tablet. He had spent the night thinking, who was she? Where had she come from? Why had she risked her life to crash here? The alien woman turned her head as he knelt beside her. She reached out with delicate hands. The gesture was almost polite, almost shy, yet full of urgency. She touched the tablet, then pointed at herself. Then she pointed at Mark, and finally, she made a gesture that looked like a small bow. Mark frowned. He tapped the tablet, bringing up a translation program. "Maybe this can help," he whispered. He spoke slowly, saying simple words. "Hello, can you understand?" The alien woman tilted her head, blinking. She made a soft sound, different from the one he heard the night before. The tablet's speakers tried to repeat the sound, but it came out as a garbled noise. Mark shook his head. The device was useless. She sighed, a sound so soft it was almost human. Then she dropped to her knees, pressing her hands together and looking up at Mark. The word Mary formed in his mind, not from translation but from the feeling behind her gestures. The word repeated in her eyes, in the urgency of her actions. Mark froze. "Mary?" he asked aloud, confused. The alien woman nodded repeatedly, almost frantically, but the way she said it, with her gestures, her eyes, her trembling hands, was not just a request. It was a desperate plea. Anna, standing nearby, whispered, "Why would she ask that? Does she even know what marriage is?" Mark didn't answer. He was too fascinated, too curious. He leaned closer and mimicked her gestures, pointing at himself, then at her. She gasped softly, a high, delicate sound, and nodded. Her face brightened for a moment, a small smile forming, fragile but real. Suddenly, the alien woman froze. Her eyes darted toward the forest. Mark followed her gaze. A shadow moved between the trees. Something was watching them. The villagers tensed. "Stay back," Mark said, holding up his hands. But the alien woman moved in front of him, placing herself protectively near the tablet, her glowing skin flickering like a warning light. The shadow stepped closer. It was a figure, humanoid, but with long, thin limbs and a strange metallic sheen to its skin. The alien woman dropped low to the ground, her hands pressed together in a gesture of begging. Mark felt his heart race. The visitor spoke, but no human could understand. Its voice was harsh, mechanical, and commanding. The alien woman's body shook. She tried to speak, pointing at herself, then at Mark, then at the newcomer. Mark understood one thing. She was asking for protection. Whoever or whatever this was, it meant danger. He looked at the villagers. "We can't just stand here, we have to help her." Slowly he stepped forward, trying to make himself appear non-threatening. The metallic figure raised its arms. Sparks flew from its fingertips, and the air hummed with energy. The alien woman pressed her face to the ground, muttering the word Mary again like it was a charm, a protection, or a plea for salvation. Mark didn't know why, but he felt a strange connection with her. It was as if her fear and hope flowed into him, urging him to act. Without thinking, he raised a small device he had found in the wreckage, a glowing alien cylinder, and pressed a button. A bright pulse of light shot out, and the metallic figure recoiled, screaming in a sound that made the villagers cover their ears. The alien woman lifted her head, her eyes locked with Mark's. She made the same bowing gesture as before, but this time it was calmer, more trusting. Her hands moved to her chest, and she pressed them together as if giving thanks. Mark felt a shiver run down his spine. He didn't know her language, but he understood one thing. She trusted him. For the first time, she was not just an alien. She was someone who believed he could protect her. The metallic figure backed away, then vanished into the forest, leaving only the faint hum of energy behind. The alien woman sank to the ground, exhausted. Mark knelt beside her, offering water and blankets. She took them carefully, her eyes never leaving his. Anna whispered, "She's beautiful, and she trusts you." Mark nodded. "And I think we have to help her, no matter what." The alien woman moved closer to him, resting her head gently against his shoulder. Her glow flickered softly, like a small beacon of hope. She whispered again, that same urgent word, Mary. And this time Mark didn't feel confusion. He felt a promise, a connection, and a mystery that would not leave him alone. Somewhere in the forest the shadows watched. The alien woman had arrived, and now the humans had made their first contact. But the real challenge, the reason she came, and the danger she carried, was just beginning. Mark looked at her, determined. "Edis, we'll figure this out, together." The alien woman stayed hidden near the edge of the forest, her glowing blue skin dimmed under the morning sun. Mark watched her closely, still trying to understand her strange gestures and urgent pleas. Every time he saw her eyes, he felt that silent question, why me? Why humans? The villagers were nervous. Rumors spread quickly. "She's not like us," some whispered. "Maybe she's dangerous." But Mark ignored them. He had seen her vulnerability, her fear, and something inside him told him she was more than just a stranger from the stars. Mark had a plan. He wanted answers, and he knew where to look. The wreckage of her spaceship lay scattered across the forest. Among the twisted metal, he had found a small device, a glowing cube no bigger than a book. He carried it to a safer place and began examining it. The alien woman followed him cautiously. She crouched near the cube, her large purple eyes wide with curiosity. When Mark touched the device, it hummed softly, and tiny symbols appeared on its surface, symbols that were not letters or numbers he recognized. Suddenly, the cube activated fully. A hologram burst into the air, showing a city of towers and lights. The alien woman gasped softly. Her hands flew to her face, trembling. Then she pointed at the hologram, then at herself, and back at Mark. Mark studied the hologram. The city was vast, glowing with energy. Towering spires pierced the sky, and flying vehicles moved through the air. But then he noticed something strange. The city was empty. Streets, buildings, even the skies, completely deserted. He looked at her. "Is this your home?" he asked. She nodded quickly, almost desperately, then dropped to her knees, pressing her hands together. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. She was the last of her kind. Her species had disappeared. The alien woman's people were gone. Maybe extinct, and she had come to Earth for reasons he could not yet understand. The alien woman's gestures became frantic. She pointed at the hologram, then at the cube, and then at herself. Mark realized she was showing him a warning. Something happened to my people, and now I am alone. Mark tried to reassure her. "We will help you, I promise." But even as he spoke, he noticed her fear had another layer. She wasn't just sad or lonely. She was scared of someone, something that wanted to find her. At that moment, a strange sound came from the forest. It was low and mechanical, like metal scraping against metal. The alien woman stiffened. She ran to Mark, wrapping her delicate hands around his arm, and pointed toward the trees. The villagers froze. From the shadows, a creature emerged, tall, thin, with glowing red eyes and metallic limbs. It moved smoothly, silently, like a predator. The alien woman fell to her knees again, bowing her head in terror. Her glowing skin flickered violently, a warning signal Mark didn't fully understand. Mark stepped forward, trying to protect her. "Stay back," he shouted. The creature stopped, its glowing eyes scanning him. Then, in a voice that sounded like metal grinding against metal, it spoke. The alien woman's body shook. She tried to communicate with it, but it ignored her. Mark realized something horrifying. This creature wasn't just a threat, it was hunting her. Something about her species had made her a target. She wasn't here by accident, she had escaped, and now the hunters had found her. The alien woman looked at Mark, pleading without words. Then she pointed to the cube and to the hologram. She wanted him to understand that her home, her people, and possibly her very life were connected to this device. Mark took a deep breath. "I don't fully understand yet," he said softly, "but I will figure it out. You're not alone anymore." The alien woman's glow softened. She leaned slightly toward him, resting her head against his shoulder. Mark felt her small hands clutch his arm. Despite the fear, despite the unknown danger, there was a quiet trust forming between them, a bond that neither of them could fully explain. As the sun rose higher, Mark began to work with the cube. He touched symbols, activated small holograms, and tried to find information about her species. The alien woman watched him closely, occasionally pointing or touching his hand, guiding him. Hours passed. The villagers kept their distance, watching nervously. They didn't understand the device, the alien, or the danger that lurked in the forest. But Mark was beginning to piece it together. He realized that her people had once been powerful, advanced, and maybe even feared by others in the galaxy. The city in the hologram was proof of their greatness and of their sudden disappearance. The alien woman made a final gesture. She pressed her hands together, lowered her head, and whispered that urgent word again, "Mary." It was no longer just a plea, it was a survival signal. Somehow, she believed that by connecting with humans, by forming a bond with Mark, she could escape her past and protect herself from the hunters. Mark understood the weight of that gesture. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. This alien woman was more than a mystery. She was a survivor, and her story, and the story of her people, was about to change the fate of everyone around her. The forest was quiet again, but a new danger waited in the shadows. The alien woman's secret was slowly unfolding, and the humans were now part of it. The question lingered in Mark's mind. Who were her people, and why had they vanished so suddenly? He looked at her determined. "We will find out, together." Days passed in the small human settlement, but the alien woman did not leave her corner near the fire. She had begun to regain some strength, but her eyes, those large glowing purple eyes, still carried a sadness that no word could describe. She no longer only pleaded, she watched the humans, learning their movements, their expressions, and their routines. Mark had become her constant companion. He brought her food, helped clean her small injuries, and spent hours studying the glowing cube from her wrecked ship. But it wasn't just the technology that fascinated him. It was her gestures, her emotions, and the strange way she seemed to understand him, even without speaking a language he could comprehend. One afternoon, as the sun painted the forest in gold, Mark noticed her attempting something new. She had picked up a small stick and was tracing patterns in the dirt. At first he thought she was simply curious, but then he realized she was drawing something resembling a heart. Mark paused, surprised. "Is that a symbol?" he asked softly. She looked up, her eyes locking with his, and nodded slowly. She placed her hand over her chest and then pointed to him, then to herself. Mark felt a strange warmth in his chest. Despite the mystery, despite the danger that had followed her from the stars, she was trying to communicate something deeply human: trust, connection, and maybe even affection. The villagers, watching from a distance, murmured among themselves. "Do you think she understands feelings?" Anna whispered. "Or is this some alien mimicry?" Mark ignored them. He knelt beside her, gently touching the patterns she had drawn. "I understand," he said. I think I understand." She tilted her head, glowing slightly brighter, as if she had been waiting for him to say that. As days turned into nights, the bond grew. The alien woman began imitating human expressions: a smile, a curious glance, even a small frown when something displeased her. Mark laughed quietly one evening when she tried to eat a slice of bread with her fingers and ended up dropping most of it. She pouted in a way that was undeniably human. But this connection was not just about small joys. One night, while the fire crackled, a scream echoed from the forest. Mark and the villagers grabbed at what they could, ready for danger. The alien woman dropped to her knees, pressing her hands together in panic. Her glow flared brightly, almost like a warning signal. From the shadows emerged the metallic creature, the hunter. But this time, something had changed. The alien woman did not cower entirely. She looked at Mark, then at the hunter, then raised her hands slightly, glowing brighter than ever. It was as if she was drawing strength from their bond, from the trust and protection they shared. Mark stepped forward instinctively. "Back!" he shouted. The alien woman's glow pulsed in rhythm with his voice, almost like a heartbeat. The hunter hesitated, scanning the two of them. Then, with a hiss of frustration, it retreated into the shadows. The alien woman sank to the ground afterward, trembling. Mark knelt beside her, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. She pressed her head to his chest briefly, letting out a soft sound of relief. For the first time, Mark understood the weight of that one repeated word she had uttered since her arrival. Mary. It was not just a plea. It was a need for protection, for companionship, for trust in someone who could stand beside her against the universe. Over the next days, Mark taught her small things about humans: how to make fire, how to walk safely through the village, how to respond to basic gestures. In return, she taught him subtle things about her people: gestures, small holographic images from the cube, and even silent expressions of emotion that were more powerful than words. One afternoon, while the sun was low, she reached out and placed her hand on his. The gesture was simple, yet it carried so much meaning: trust, friendship, and perhaps something deeper. Mark felt a rush of emotions he had never felt before. She was alien, yes, but she was also unmistakably alive, full of hope, fear, and an almost human longing for connection. The villagers began to notice the change in both of them. Where there had been fear and hesitation, there was now a quiet understanding. The alien woman was no longer just a mysterious visitor. She had become part of their lives, part of their story. But even as the bond strengthened, Mark knew the danger was not gone. The hunters had found her once, and they would return. He looked at her glowing form, so delicate and so strong at the same time, and felt a promise form in his heart. He would protect her, no matter what. That night, as the forest whispered and the stars shone above, the alien woman lay near the fire. Her eyes met Mark's one last time before she closed them in rest. He watched her, thinking of the city and the hologram, the vanished species, and the danger that waited in the shadows. But for now, she was safe, and a bond had been formed, one that would carry them through the trials to come. In that moment, Mark understood something profound. The emotional connection they shared was more than survival. It was a bridge between worlds, a spark of hope, and a force that might change the fate of humans and aliens alike. The forest was calm, but Mark knew it was only temporary. The real test of trust, courage, and connection was still ahead. The village had grown quieter over the past few days. The alien woman was recovering, and a fragile rhythm had formed between her and the humans, especially Mark. Yet beneath the calm, tension simmered. Everyone sensed that the forest held secrets, and shadows moved in ways that made even the bravest villager uneasy. Mark sat near the alien woman, who was practicing small gestures to communicate more clearly. Her glow was softer now, more controlled, but it still pulsed whenever she felt fear or urgency. Mark had learned to read it like a heartbeat, and tonight it was faster than usual. Something was coming. Suddenly, the air shifted. A low humming vibration ran through the ground. The trees rustled unnaturally, as if whispering warnings. The alien woman froze, her glowing blue skin flickering in sharp pulses. She pointed toward the forest, her hands trembling, and dropped to her knees, pressing them together in desperation. Mark's heart pounded. "Not again," he whispered. He grabbed a small device from the wreckage, the one that had once scared the metallic hunter away, and readied it. From the shadows emerged more figures. This time they were taller, faster, and their metallic limbs glinted under the moonlight. Their eyes glowed red, scanning the clearing with calculated precision. The alien woman's glow flared like a warning flare, casting eerie light across the clearing. The villagers backed away, fear evident in their eyes. But Mark stepped forward. "Stay behind me," he shouted. He could feel the alien woman's gaze on him, full of trust, fear, and hope. He knew she was counting on him. The figures paused, studying them. One of them moved forward, its steps silent but heavy. Then it extended its arm, and a beam of red energy shot toward Mark. He ducked just in time, and the beam burned a line through the earth where he had stood. The villagers screamed and scattered. The alien woman cried out, a soft melodic sound that made Mark's heart tighten. He realized she was not only scared, she was warning him. She gestured rapidly toward the glowing cube in the hologram. He understood. She wanted him to use the technology, the tools from her ship, to defend them. Mark activated the cube. A bright pulse of light shot out, illuminating the clearing. The hunters hissed and recoiled, shielding their eyes. The alien woman raised her hands, her glow matching the pulse. Together, they created a temporary barrier of light that held the attackers back. But it was not enough. The hunters were relentless. They circled around the village, cutting off escape routes. Mark's mind raced. The alien woman had shown him something before. A sequence of gestures, almost like a code. He realized it could activate another function of the cube, something stronger. He nodded to her. She understood immediately. Her hands moved in rapid patterns, glowing brighter and brighter. Mark followed her gestures on the cube, pressing the symbols in the sequence she indicated. The light surged, forming a dome of energy over the village. The hunters slammed into it, sparks flying, but they could not break through. The alien woman's glow dimmed slightly as she collapsed to the ground. Mark rushed to her side, holding her. "It's okay," he whispered. "We're safe. For now." The hunters retreated into the forest, vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. But Mark knew it was temporary. They would return, stronger, more determined, and next time the village alone would not be enough to protect her. The alien woman looked up at him, her glowing eyes filled with gratitude and fear. She placed her hand on his arm and whispered the word again, "Mary." Mark felt the weight behind it, more urgent now than ever. It was no longer just about trust, it was about survival. She needed someone she could rely on completely, someone who could stand with her against the forces hunting her. The villagers gathered around cautiously, awe and fear mixed in their expressions. They had seen power unlike anything on Earth, and they had witnessed a bond forming that was stronger than technology or weapons. Mark looked at the alien woman and understood the truth. She was not only a survivor, but also a force of hope, a being whose presence could change everything. Night fell fully, and the forest became silent again, but Mark did not relax. He stayed close to the alien woman, holding the cube and watching the shadows. Somewhere out there, the hunters were planning their next move, and he knew that when they returned, it would not just be a fight, it would be a test of trust, courage, and the strange connection between human and alien. The alien woman rested her head against his shoulder, her hands clutching his arm tightly. Mark could feel her heartbeat, or the alien equivalent, and knew that the bond they had formed would be their strength. In that moment, he made a silent promise. No matter what came, he would protect her, and together they would face the danger waiting in the dark. For now, the village was safe, but the universe had only begun to take notice. The morning after the attack was quiet but tense. The villagers were cautious, repairing damage from the hunter's assault. Mark stayed close to the alien woman, whose glow had dimmed to a faint shimmer. She moved slowly, still weak from using her powers to create the protective dome the night before. Mark watched her carefully. He had seen fear, desperation, and hope in her eyes. But now, there was something new, a kind of urgency, a silent plea that went beyond survival. She gestured toward him repeatedly, dropping to her knees and pressing her hands together in the familiar way. Then, she pointed to herself, then to Mark, and whispered the word again, Mary. Mark froze. He had seen her gesture many times, but today it felt different. There was no mistaking the meaning behind it. It wasn't just a call for protection. It was a desperate proposal, an appeal that only he could understand and only he could respond to. He knelt beside her, trying to keep his voice calm. I don't fully understand why you're asking this, he said, but I know you need me. And I need you too. We have to survive together. Her eyes widened, shimmering brighter. She reached out and touched his hand, clutching it tightly. The glow from her skin pulsed like a heartbeat, matching the pounding of Mark's own. The villagers watched silently, unsure of what to say. This was unlike anything they had ever seen. A human and an alien, communicating without words, sharing trust and understanding through gestures, touches, and glowing signals. Some whispered that it was love. Others simply shook their heads in disbelief. Mark took a deep breath. If this marriage will help protect you, if it gives us strength against them, then yes, he said softly, I will stand with you. I will not let anyone harm you. The alien woman's glow flared brightly, filling the clearing with a soft, soothing light. She lowered her head, pressing her forehead against his shoulder. It was more than a gesture. It was a bond being forged, a promise sealed in trust and desperation. Suddenly, the air vibrated with tension. From the edge of the forest, faint shadows moved again. The hunters had returned. This time there were more of them, and their steps were faster, more calculated. Their glowing red eyes scanned the clearing, locking onto the alien woman. Mark stood, holding her hand tightly. We face them together, he said. The alien woman nodded, her glow steady and strong, radiating a courage that belied her fragile appearance. The hunters advanced, but the alien woman raised her hands and her glow pulsed violently. Mark activated the cube, following the gestures she had shown him before. The holographic shield expanded, surrounding them. Sparks flew as the hunters slammed into it, but it held firm. Mark realized that the bond between them, the proposal, the trust, the shared commitment, was more than symbolic. It was the source of power. Her glow was stronger near him, synchronized with his presence, creating a force that the hunters could not penetrate. One of the hunters tried to bypass the shield, firing a red energy beam, but the alien woman moved quickly, redirecting the light with a pulse of her own energy. Mark followed her gestures, pressing the cube in rhythm with her movements. Together, they created a dazzling barrier, a protective dome of light that pushed the hunters back. Finally, the hunters hissed and retreated into the forest, their glowing eyes disappearing into the shadows. The clearing was quiet again. The villagers exhaled, a mixture of awe and relief washing over them, the alien. Woman sank to the ground, exhausted but glowing faintly with happiness. She looked up at Mark and pressed her hand against his chest. He felt her energy, her trust, and the unspoken promise that they would face every danger together. Mark knelt beside her, brushing a strand of her silver hair from her face. You don't have to face anything alone, he said. From now on, we are together, no matter what comes. She whispered the word again, Mary, but this time it carried relief, gratitude, and hope. She had found her protector, her partner, someone she could rely on completely in a universe that had been cruel and unforgiving. As the sun set, casting golden light over the village, Mark and the alien woman sat side by side. The glow from her skin lit their faces, and for the first time since her arrival, there was no fear, only trust, connection, and a shared determination to survive. Mark knew the hunters would return, stronger and more dangerous, but now he also knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, bonded not just by survival but by a choice, a proposal, and a promise that bridged the distance between worlds. The forest was dark, but Mark's resolve was brighter than any threat. The alien woman rested her head on his shoulder, her hands holding his, and for the first time, the universe felt a little less lonely. They were ready. The night was darker than usual, the forest whispering with an eerie silence. The villagers slept uneasily, sensing danger lingering in the shadows. Mark and the alien woman stayed near the protective dome, their hands clasped tightly, their eyes scanning the edge of the forest. The events of the past days weighed heavily on them both. The crash, the hunters, the desperate proposal. Tonight, they knew the real test was coming. A sudden rustling tore through the trees. The hunters had returned, more numerous and more relentless than ever. Their glowing red eyes pierced the darkness, scanning the village for the alien woman. Mark tightened his grip on the cube, his mind racing. This was no longer just a defense. They had to make a choice, and quickly. The alien woman's glow pulsed in rhythm with her fear and determination. She pressed her forehead briefly against Mark's chest, whispering that urgent word, Mary. But now it carried more than a plea. It carried trust, dependence, and hope. Mark understood. She wanted him not only to survive, but to lead, to make the decision that would protect them both. Mark turned to the villagers. "We have one chance," he said. "We either use the cube to trap them outside the forest, or we lure them away from the village completely. But it will be dangerous. We need to act together." The alien woman nodded, her glow brightening in agreement. She moved beside him, her hands hovering over the cube, ready to synchronize their efforts. Mark realized that their bond, the proposal, the trust, the shared courage, was now the source of their strength. From the shadows, the hunters advanced. Sparks flew as one tried to breach the village with a powerful energy beam. The alien woman raised her hands, and her glow flared brightly, creating a barrier that absorbed the attack. Mark pressed the cube in the sequence they had practiced, amplifying the energy into a protective dome that spread across the village. The hunters hissed and recoiled, their red eyes narrowing in frustration. Mark's heart pounded. He looked at her glowing face. "Are you ready?" he asked. She nodded, her hands pressed against the cube, ready to focus her energy with his. Together, they executed a plan. The cube emitted a bright pulse that extended outward, creating a corridor of light through the forest. The hunters, drawn to the alien woman's energy, stepped into the corridor. As they did, Mark adjusted the cube to bend the light, channeling them away from the village and into a natural canyon at the edge of the forest. The alien woman's glow intensified with each movement, synchronized perfectly with Mark's commands. They were a team now, their bond turning fear into power. The hunters struggled against the energy, trapped in the corridor, unable to break free. Mark felt a surge of hope. They could survive this. But the canyon was narrow, and the hunters fought back, sending beams of energy toward the cube. The alien woman's strength wavered, her glow flickering. Mark realized they had to make a choice, sacrifice the dome and risk the village, or focus the energy to eliminate the hunters entirely. He looked at her, reading her expression. Despite exhaustion, despite fear, she nodded slightly, trusting him completely. Mark made the decision. "We end this. Together," he said. The alien woman pressed her hands to the cube one final time. Mark followed, directing all the energy into the corridor. The hunters screeched and hissed as the concentrated light overwhelmed them. One by one, their forms disintegrated into sparks, vanishing into the canyon. The forest was silent. The threat was gone. The alien woman sank to the ground, exhausted, but alive. Mark knelt beside her, wrapping her in a blanket and holding her close. Her glow returned softly, pulsing with relief and gratitude. She whispered the word again, "Mary," but this time it was full of hope, not desperation. Mark smiled, feeling the weight of the moment. "Yes," he said, "we face everything together. From now on, no matter what comes, we protect each other." The villagers emerged cautiously, awe and respect in their eyes. They had witnessed something extraordinary. Not just the alien woman's power, but the bond between human and alien that had turned fear into strength and desperation into triumph. As the first light of dawn broke over the forest, the alien woman rested her head against Mark's shoulder. Her hands held his, her glow steady and serene. The crash, the hunters, the mysterious holograms of her lost city, all of it had led to this moment. She had found trust, protection, and perhaps something more in the human who had believed in her. Mark looked out at the horizon, thinking of the vast universe beyond the village and the challenges that still awaited them. But for the first time, he felt ready. With her by his side, they could face anything. The alien woman's soft glow lit the clearing, a symbol of hope, survival, and the choice that had united them. Together, they had turned danger into strength, fear into trust, and desperation into a bond that spanned worlds. The universe was vast and the threats were many, but they were no longer alone. They had each other, and that made all the difference.